afternoon. My name is Rebecca Hun. As discussed in my previous speech, museums present a golden opportunity for us to view history and learn about past cultures, as well as understand our own. As important as museums are, it would seem sensible that they be securely funded. This is, however, not the case. Museums are funded by both private donations and federal organizations. In this speech, I'm going to present to you the ways in which museums can procure funding, as well as convince you that the federal governments should provide more secure funding for museums. As I discussed in my previous speech, knowledge of past cultures is critical in our understanding of our modern world. Museums are one of the best places to experience this influx of culture. Yet despite their importance in our development, museums are not well funded. The majority of museum funding comes from private donations and local governments. As Fort W. Bell states in his article, How Are Museums Supported Financially in the U.S., published by the Embassy of the United States of America in 2012, over the years, the bulk of this funding has come from state and local governments, with only a small percentage coming from the federal level. Though museums receive this state and local government funding, this amount is not enough to keep them running securely. Private donations are even less reliable, as they can easily change in quantity or fall away entirely. Fort W. Bell, when asked, "How are museums funded?" simply answered, "Precariously." As well as providing only marginal funding at a federal level, this allotted money is stretched thinly across many different organizations. In the article, Federal Financial Assistance for Preservation Products, Cultural and Arts Programs, the Advisory Council of Historic Preservation observes that historic properties, especially historic built environments, can benefit from federal funding programs that support projects in the arts, humanities, and museum development. Though it is beneficial for these other sources to have access to government funding, it stretches the pool of federal funding even thinner, making it more difficult for museums to procure this. Because federal funding is stretched so thinly through many different departments, finding funding can be a difficult task for museums. Charlotte A. Montgomery explains the constant search for funding undertaken by museums in her article, Your Museum Needs Money. Now What?, published by the American Alliance of Museums in 2014. Montgomery claims, I've spent countless hours perusing opportunities just to discover 15 minutes into reading the full abstract that our program would not qualify for this particular funding opportunity. Montgomery is not the only one to come across this problem. Museums don't have access to secure funding, and on top of that, they have to search for opportunities, sometimes fruitlessly. This lack of monetary reliability places museums in precarious positions unnecessarily. Other institutions, funded in similar manners to museums, receive more federal funding security and are able to run more efficiently. One such institution is the library. In their article, Appropriations, published on the ALA Government Relations website, the American Library Association states that while the majority of funding for libraries comes from state and local governments, federal funding provides critical assistance, giving libraries across the country the financial support they need to serve their communities. In the case of libraries, federal funding steps up to cover its necessities, a fact that is not always true for museums. If libraries, which perform similar educational and cultural functions as museums, receive more secure funding, then why can't museums? Arts programs, specifically including museums, should receive more and more stable federal government funding. In their article, Why Should Government Support the Arts?, published in 2014, the National Assembly of State Arts Agency argues that lawmakers may ask whether government has a legitimate role to play in the arts, or may ask whether the arts should receive funds when so many other needs are pressing. The answer to both questions is yes. This same article furthers its argument by saying, it takes a mixture of both public and private funds to support the arts. Although many citizens and companies contribute to cultural activities, the benefits of the arts cannot be fully realized without the unique contributions of the government. Federal funding should not be present only in the arts as a broad category, but specifically in museums. In conclusion, I would like you all to remember the importance museums have in our development and understanding of culture. This important function is severely hindered by the lack of secure funding provided for museums. The federal government, which works to fund other areas of the arts programs, should also have an allotted amount of money set aside specifically for museums. Only with appropriate funding can museums continue to provide exhibits and opportunities for continual cultural growth. Thank you.